You could have seen this video earlier on my Vanilla page. Link in the description. What is up, everybody? Fake Dragsaw here. Today I'm going to be reviewing Panty and Stocking with Garterbelt. I've been wanting to do more of these reviews, so here's one of them.
Panty and Stocking with Garterbelt is a witty and genuinely hilarious action comedy anime with excellent voice acting.
Yes, you always have to fuck up everything, don't you?
And coupled with superb animation, the show is a surprising experience that was canceled far too soon. Oh, fuck, there's a typo in the script. I meant to say the show is one of the worst cartoons of the decade and is a blight on adult animated shows and should have never seen the light of television. Panty and Stocking with Garterbelt is a Japanese anime released by Gainax in October of 2010 and promptly ended 2 months later. Despite only airing 13 episodes, it gained a fairly sizable cult following, including some of my friends like Mighty Raccoon, who, if you remember, drew these old character stills for me. He says he tried to base on the Panty and Stocking style. Holy shit, we just went full circle, guys. But what are my thoughts on the show? Well, stay tuned, retard, you're about to find out. A lot of people praise the animation and its style. I mean, it's interesting, it's sharp, it's sleek, especially when the characters make quick and precise movements, but it's also a bit bland, and it's actually pretty simple and easy to replicate. I mean, so much so that my talented ass has actually drawn a couple character stills for this review. In fact, I find the animation itself, as in, the motion, kind of mediocre in my opinion. The show spends most of their animation budget on the, action of the show, for obvious reasons, so it doesn't leave much room for the regular scenes. The frame rate is pretty low, even for anime. They reuse and recycle a lot of assets in the show to the point where it's hard for me to ignore it. I mean, look at this. They reuse the same character model 6 times in a row. 6! Just draw new people! They oftentimes loop things like characters talking, where they just draw 4 or so frames, then loop that. It also sometimes looks a little stilted and awkward. Hell, at points they even reuse animation, something I can't stand. It isn't bad by any means, but it certainly isn't good. The story of the show is pretty simple. Angels, Panty, and Stocking were exiled from heaven for being fucking twats to a place known as Dotten City, a purgatory-like place plagued by a menagerie of unique and malevolent ghosts, and it's up to them to exterminate the ghosts to earn heaven coins to buy their way back into heaven. However, our own heroes procrastinate and get distracted by their own interests, and the writers so cleverly take full advantage of the possibilities to sneak in some witty, gut-busting, nut-busting jokes.
How is this fair? Look how many times you've come. I've only squirted once, and it wasn't that far.
More than a ghost! It's the devil himself! Please, save our school! Oh, Jiminy, that feels amazing! Just a little to the left!
Which I'll get into later. Also, minor gripe, the logic of the ghosts are kinda stupid. They only require 1 hit from Panty and Stocking to be killed, so they don't pose any threat at all. Like, when they show up, you know that they're gonna win. These fights that could be pretty exciting are boring because Panty and Stocking, as long as they have their weapons, are gonna win every single time, and they usually last about 20 seconds. Our main leads in this show are fairly obnoxious and crude, but it's okay because it was intentional, therefore I should give it a pass. No, they don't do anything funny with it. They don't provide commentary with it. They don't do anything with the characters. Panty in particular is especially egregious. Every time she opens her mouth, she has to be very bitchy and sarcastic. But whenever I complain about this, I invariably get defenses from TSG enthusiasts saying things like, "But that's her character. She's not supposed to be likable. That's the joke." But using that as a defense is pretty poor because, what? I'm not allowed to criticize a character for acting like that because she's supposed to act like that. Like every character written? I mean, to be fair, shows like, say, Total Drama have pretty unlikable characters, but the show can get away with that because A, they use their unlikable qualities as a satire of the typical archetypes you'd find on shows like Survivor, and B, unlike this show, Total Drama has over 20 main characters, so if you don't like one of them, ignore them. However, the show doesn't have 22 main characters, and doesn't use their character to satirize other people or anything. She's just a bitch because it's funny. Even though it's really not funny, just to act like a bitch. Was this show written by a 17-year-old? I mean, of course it goes down to personal preference, but I find it just obnoxious. Oh, Stocking is a goth girl who likes candy. Her character's fine enough, but her voice kind of annoys me.
Perfect. Well, bet you wish we stayed home now. At least mine works.
Give me the undies or make it work!
not even gonna try to use the other? It hits a very precise pitch that just pricks my ears in a very particular way. Her personality is a bit more likable, although, to be fair, that isn't much. And I kind of wish they focused more on the goth side of her. There could have been some funny jokes there. But she's significantly less of a bitch than Panty, so default I prefer her character. But, in the end of things, both of them are rather repellent. Garterbelt is creepy, and is the worst character on the show. I'm not going to hold that against him too much since, they actually do something with his character in this to satirize people. But, the gag is, he's a black pedophile priest. Funny. South Park did it better. My favorite character overall would most likely be Brief. He isn't a great character, his humor isn't too funny, but he's one of the only characters that doesn't annoy me, and sometimes he's a pretty enjoyable and relatable guy. He's the human punching bag of the show, and I kinda like him. He usually takes the sideline for our other, amazing and hilarious leads, which kinda sucks, but what are you gonna do? Undoubtedly, 100% the worst part of this show is unfortunately the most prominent. The comedy. Jesus fucking Christ, the comedy. The comedy is dirty and edgy, which is fine in small amounts, but comedy is all about variety. However, this show lacks variety. I swear, at least 95% of the jokes are sexual or risque, and it's just overbearing. Not a single one of them has made me laugh. It genuinely brings the quality of the show down a lot. It's just deplorable. They're mindless. They're terrible. They're stupid. There's no variety. There's no insight. It's just obnoxious. They try to throw in some commentary now and then on things like society, youth, and high school in a few episodes. But it's about as prudent and clever as you'd expect. We get it. High school sucks. Society isn't the idealistic, unachievable fantasy you have in your head. Like we know. You're just stating the obvious. Like I said earlier, it genuinely weighs down the quality of the show and just makes it a thoroughly miserable experience for me. Is there anything saving this show? Oh, yes.
Fly away now, fly away now, fly away!
Holy shit, guys. Some of you may consider the music to be pretty irrelevant when it comes to the actual quality of the show, but god damn, it's really, really good. It genuinely does make this experience a bit less tolerable for me. Sometimes I just zone out and focus on the music in the background because it's so nice to listen to. It might be because I love dance music and Vocaloid, and this one kinda does both, but the music is so good that oftentimes I would just focus on that in the background rather than the actual episode. Every track is just orgasmic. This is some of the catchiest music I've heard from a show in a while. I honestly want to know what the budget was. It's for free on YouTube, so you can listen to it right now. I'll put a link in the description because this is music you gotta listen to. It's really catchy. It's always in my head, and I listen to this music every day. That is the best thing I can say about the show, is that it has a 10 out of 10 soundtrack. So that was my review of Panty and Stocking with Garterbelt. Sorry it was a bit bare bones, but who cares? Were you really expecting an in-depth, amazing quality review from me? I'm trying my best, but I have nothing else to say about this show other than it's got fantastic music, mediocre story, and bad jokes. That's really all you should take away from this. I hope you enjoyed my review, and thanks for watching. Bye. While I was editing this video, I expressed my thoughts on it to a friend, and he said, oh, maybe it's because you're watching the English dub. Try the original dub, it's got less risqueness in it. And I watched it, and yeah, it's got less risqueness in it, but it's also lacking in character or originality or variety. In fact, the original audio track is more boring than the actual American dub. How the hell? That's got to be like a record in anime history, because I can't think of a single other show that's done that, where the dub is better than the original. Because at least the dub has got character to it. At least it's got something you can identify about it, but in the original, it's more toned down, which is just bizarre, because usually it's the opposite. But yeah, it's not better in the original or the dub or sub or whatever you choose to use. You know, if you can understand Japanese like me, just watch and compare the two. You should be good. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Sayonara!
Please.